Fight review. Gladiator Challenge 26. First match in the heavyweight tournament. Julius Askew versus Carlos Cantu. I like this one specifically. It was not a great match, but I don't know. For the reason I liked it because they were both local guys. They were both from the same town, both from Bakersfield, California. Julius Askew, 5'11", 268 pounds. He was described as someone. He had a wrestling background, but he liked to punch he liked to punch while standing. So somewhat of a hybrid. Julius Askew was. And his opponent, Clay Tripp, not much was known about him. Other than they got his name wrong. The commentators and even the ring announcer, the cage announcer, Tyson Johnson, got his name wrong. They said Clay Tripp, but his name is, Shootout Fight Finder said his name is Carlos Cantu. And that was Carlos Cantu's second fight for Gladiator Challenge. You'd think they'd get his name right. But he didn't seem to care. He walked out and, with some really bad rap music playing. To me, all rap music is bad anyway, so good or bad that's pretty much the same thing. Carlos Cantu and Julius Askew, if that was your personal taste in music, you should have developed some better taste. But I guess Gladiator Challenge was sponsored by rappers for the two-night tournament here. It was Gladiator Challenge 26 and 27. But to the match, both guys about the same weight, 268, and then for Askew and 275 for Carlos Cantu, 6'4" and 5'11". You think that would mean something with something about reach with the stand-up, longer arms and longer legs for the taller guy, you know. But it seemed not to have too much effect. They walked right towards each other and began with a sloppy display of punches. I think a lot of Cantu's punches were like they were landing, but they were like glancing straight rights and straight lefts. Julius, I think he tried a few hooks, left and right hooks, and the first time he tried for the takedown. I mean, it didn't work. They were too close to the cage. Carlos put a hand on the fence, and then he went back to trying to punch. It was a sloppy display of stand-up. But, I don't know, for whatever reason, I enjoyed just watching these two big guys try to stand with each other. I would have liked to have seen more than just punches. It was all punches to the face. I would have liked to have seen punches to the body, knees to the body, knees to the head, low kicks, kicks to the legs, for those who do not know what a low kick is. Would have liked to have seen elbows, but we would see the elbows from Julius Askew later on in the night. As you're guessing here, as I'm just somewhat spoiling it here, Askew ends up winning, gets a takedown the second time he attempts it, and they go to the ground, and he gets what's called by the commentators wrongly as a bicep choke, but Julius, he was actually applying a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu move. It was called an arm triangle choke. It didn't seem like it was on that long. It wasn't applied long, but it does not take if you're out of air, it does not take very long for you to realize if you cannot get out of it, that you better quit instead of pass out. So Carlos Cantu, despite his cornermen yelling at him, he did what was okay for him. I mean, he goes ahead and taps 1 minute 17 seconds. Mostly sloppy boxing match. Limited groundwork, but yeah, Carlos Cantu loses. Julius Askew displays the one and only submission hold needed in that fight. And yeah, I like I said, I enjoyed their stand-up. It was sloppy boxing, but the smooth groundwork made up for it. Julius, he tried for a high double leg takedown, but he couldn't even lift Carlos off the ground because of the 7-pound weight advantage. So, yeah, I'm rambling here, but yeah, end of the match. Carlos Cantu loses it. In his second pro fight. Julius, in his first pro fight, gets a victory 1 minute 17 seconds into it. He advances to the semifinals of the tournament. And Julius Askew next faces Dan Molina in Gladiator Challenge 26. In Gladiator Challenge 27, Julius faces Dan Molina. That review is coming up soon. End of bad fight review here. Well, maybe bad fight review for a fight that most people would say was bad, but I didn't think it was bad. The sloppy stand-up was okay for me. Julius Askew, before things changed, I mean, he was actually scheduled in 2005 to have a professional boxing match. I remember this. Looked at boxrec.com. Julius Askew was going to compete somewhere in California on July 7th, 2005 or 2006. It never happened. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen how either of these two, with this big weight that they had and the height, in Cantu's case, I would have liked to have seen how either of these guys did in a pure stand-up match. I mean, I think Julius Askew, it looked bad the way the punches were being thrown, but I think he knew in the stand-up that he was losing, so that's why he had to go for the takedown and the submission. But Carlos Cantu and Julius Askew, if they would have ever rematched, but let's say in a pure stand-up match, let's say they were invited to K1 for a one-shot deal, I think Carlos Cantu, he would have won it. Not sure what kind of punch he would have used, or kick, or knee, but I think he would have won. Let's go ahead and say left hook. Let's go ahead and say straight right hand into the head. Carlos Cantu, a heavy guy, and he seemed like he was more of a stand-up fighter in his 4 matches anyway. Well, it's no such luck though. Bakersfield guy loses, and then Bakersfield guy wins because they're both from the same hometown. So, okay, nice way to start off the heavyweight tournament for Gladiator 26.